Hi, this is Rose's Cultured Vegetables. These are some of the things that you'll need: a food processor, a blender, canning jars, and some culture starter that you can get from Body Ecology. Here's your list of ingredients. And your finished project. So here we are. Some of the prep work has been done. And we're cleaning the green cabbage, taking off the bad leaves down to the good. And of course, we don't want to throw this away, so if you have a compost pile, a garden, keep these for compost or give them to somebody who does. And we're going to want to quarter, ultimately, the cabbage. And you're going to want to save some of the leaves for later. We're going to take out the heart of the cabbage, and as you can see, we have a different bag, and this is for soup stock. It's good to have a nice sharp cleaver. We're going to want to ultimately cut the cabbage into pieces that will fit into the food processor. As you can see, I've been busy. But this will ultimately make approximately 30-some quarts of cultured vegetables. Now this is something that you could get a group of people together to do, and it's actually kind of fun. And then once you get all done, everybody gets to take home some. Now, you don't need to get organic vegetables. If you can, that's fine, but it's not really necessary because the bacteria is going to negate any of the pesticide problems. You want to take the leaves out of the celery because we'll add them to the soup stock. But as far as the cultured vegetables, that makes them a little bitter. So of course you want to clean your celery. And then we're going to chop it in small enough pieces to be able to blend it. Now this is a rather large batch, but as indicated in the ingredients list, you could half or even quarter the amounts, but you would still use 1 packet of the bacteria. So our little group has been having fun seeing how many quarts we can get out of 1 packet. And so far we've gotten up to 37. One thing we did find is it works a little better if you make 2 batches of 15 and 1 packet per batch. The culture starter only is, last time I got it, $23 for 6 packets, so it's very economical. The culture starter has the Plantera bacterium in it, and Plantera makes folate, which we all need. Now this is a fairly simple recipe. As you get more adept, you can add other vegetables. In olden times before refrigeration, the Germans made sauerkraut, and the Koreans had kimchi. So now we have our celery and our apple cut up, and we're going to blend that. A little bit of water. You want to use good water, don't use tap water. Use purified water, be good. All your vegetables, and including the bacteria, need to have been room temperature. So if you're going to do this early in the morning, you need to leave everything out overnight. We learned that the hard way, taking it out cold. It makes the fermentation process slow down. So all blenders are different, so you play with it. You basically want to make a liquid. I'm just using a blender here. I have seen some people have the NutriBullet. It's an expense, and the price may come down, but right now they're about $100. But that would pretty much liquefy anything, so it would probably make the job a little easier. This particular batch we're making here, again, is very simplified in ingredients. Because the people that eat it, not everybody likes hot things. So if you want to add hot sauce or peppers or anything to it, you can do that after the fact. If you do add hot things to it, like garlic or onions or peppers, anything like that, it will inhibit, because these things of themselves will inhibit bacteria. So it does slow down the process a little bit. Once we get our green mulm, we add it to a big bowl. And it doesn't have to be perfect. As you can see, there's some pulp there. Now, we've saved a bunch of leaves. That's for later. We have our food processor. This particular one only cost about $50 at Walmart. It was on sale. It's an Oster. And it does the trick pretty good. They all have their own safety features, so just learn your unit. And if you have a couple of these going at the same time, although it makes a big racket, you get the job done quicker. And I'm basically just going between shredding and stopping. Once the bowl is full, the unit will log, it'll drag, slow down. So look inside, and when it's full, dump it. Now we're going to heat up our water. We have a half a cup of water. And we just want it warm. So maybe about 3 on the stove. We have our honey. You could use any honey. Now, as you can see, I expertly measure this honey, but that's about a half a teaspoon. And our culture starter. Now, in the olden days, well, basically there's bacteria on the cabbage, and when you cut it all up and put it in brine, it would work. But we want to control the bacteria that we use, and so that's why we're using the culture starter. And that is specifically Plantera. And so what we're going to do is when the water warms up and the honey dissolves, when it's just right, we will add the packet of the good guy bacteria. And the reason why we do this is because we want to control things. So we're going to call it, it's called competitive inhibition. By adding good guy bacteria, they outnumber the bad pathogens, and so the bad bacteria, and so pathogens can't become virulent. So here we go. We're going to add our good guy bacteria to the honey water. Now they've been sleeping. So now they're aching up and stretching, and they go, ooh, something good to eat. So we're going to let them have their morning coffee for 20 minutes. While they're doing that, we're going to go back over to the shredding of the cabbage. Now if you're careful, you don't have to make a big mess. And if you take off the grater the same way it was put on, then you won't be having long pieces with your little pieces. And there we go. Dump it in. Of course, we're making a big batch, so we have a big tub. It's really quite pretty with the purple cabbage and the green cabbage mixed. So now we're going to take some of that, mix it up a little bit, and we're going to blend it. So while our good guy bacteria is having their morning coffee with the honey water, waking up, what we're going to do is we're going to go over and make them a second course. So we're going to add some good water to this cabbage. And you see it coming up on the bottom there. And then we want to blend it, liquefy it. What we've learned through trial and error is it's a good idea to use a paper towel to cover the top, because for some reason it likes to squirt out. It's interesting that Captain Cook took fermented vegetables with him in the hold of the ship, and they were gone for 3 years on their voyages, and the fermented vegetables stayed fresh, or at least fermented, and they were high in vitamin C, and so his crew never got scurvy. So I'm sure as they ate it, they probably replaced the cabbage, but kept some of it like a starter for the next batch. It appears that all cruciferous vegetables should be fermented. So of course that would be broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage. And like I said, if you have some friends, you can get them together and give everybody a job. And we've had 4 people, and in 2 hours be able to process 2 batches, which ended up about 30 quarts. And then what you do is let everybody take a couple quarts home with them, and they've had a good time, and they get to go home and babysit their fermented cultured vegetables, which we'll talk about babysitting later. So it looks like we're almost done. With the blending of cabbage. Again, you may have a better way of processing it, possibly a NutriBullet or something else. But until this unit dies, I won't be having an added expense. We try to keep it simple. Some people don't like fermented things, vinegary things. It was interesting that my husband, as I was making this the first time said, you know, I don't eat cabbage. I says, I know. And then as it was working and turning from purple to pink, I said, you know, I don't eat cabbage. I said, I know. You don't have to. And then as it was getting all done, and it ended up just a forkful on his plate. And I said, ooh, look how pretty this is. Why don't you try it? And he did. And lo and behold, he liked it. So now he even puts it on the plates. But the older generations didn't have refrigeration, and so Germans, we know about sauerkraut from them, and Koreans made kimchi. But they didn't have the refrigeration, so they fermented their vegetables to preserve them. And in the process, they added beneficial bacteria to their diet. Now, they didn't add the bacteria. There's actually bacteria coating all the leaves, and so they just did their thing. But when fast food came on the scene, people's sour taste buds slowly went into disuse as the fast food industry pushed sugar and salt to the forefront. At about the same time, antibiotics became popular, and while they serve a purpose, the overuse of them has caused a serious problem in all living things. Just one use of antibiotics as a child can kill all the good and bad bacteria in your body, leaving only Candida, which is a fungus, to thrive on carbohydrates and sweets, and eventually ending up with a whole host of ills and possible cancers. While sauerkraut may be purchased at a reasonable price at the grocery store, unfortunately it has preservatives in it and a whole lot of salt. So this makes it, that makes it not as beneficial as it could be, and so that's why we developed this. Now we've added our blended cabbage to our celery and apple, and it makes a very psychedelic purple with green. We mix that together. And then in a couple of minutes we're going to add our bacteria for its second course. Now, bacteria has gotten a bad rap in these last few years, and everybody's out to kill them all, between hand sanitizers and all kinds of disinfectants and everything. And yes, there are bad bacteria out there, but there's good guys too, and we need to keep them good. Our 20 minutes is up. Our good guy bacteria have awakened and stretched and had their morning coffee. They're all alive and ready to go. And now we're going to carefully add them to their second course. Just because they're little and we can't see them doesn't mean that we have to be mean to them. So we're going to gently mix them in. So once we get them mixed in, then the fun part starts. Okay, we've got our tub of shredded veggies, and now we're going to add the bacteria and the liquid. Now, if you got any kids, this is the fun part for them, but we as adults had a good time too. There is no way to do this but with your hands. So the idea will be to mix and coat all the shredded cabbage with this good guy bacteria and the liquid. So I know you're all out there going, ooh, that looks so fun. So we take our time and just mix it good. Now we're going to be putting this in sterilized jars. Now they can be any jar. So it could be a designer jar or a fancy jar or just little jelly jars. But we don't mess around, so we use the quart jars. A wide mouth quart. It's about anywhere from $10 to $12 for a case of 12. Sometimes you can get them on sale. You would have run these through a dishwasher to sterilize them. And once we're sure we got it good and covered, get right down to the bottom. You may not be able to see it, but at the very bottom is going to be water, liquid, because these bacteria are already breaking down the cell membrane of the cabbage. So now we have our leaves, we have our jar. And this is the important part. We need to pack the jars. So we're going to fill it up. And we're going to use our knuckles and get all the air out. And keep filling it. Keep packing it. You ultimately want to get it just to the lip. And if you'll notice, there's water coming up the side. I don't know if you can see it. There you go. But you definitely will see it on the top. Here we go. We want to get it to the lip because we need some room for expansion. There we go. Yeah, see the water? And it's bubbly water, so that's the bacteria already hard at work. Now we're going to clean the outside and the rib off. We're going to take our cabbage leaf and put it on the inside and use it to push down, and you see the liquid coming up? So we want all the contents of the jar underwater. So we're going to add a little bit of water, our good water. And then we're going to put our lid on. We want to make it tight, but then we want to back it off by a half. This allows the babies to pass gas and burp and puke, and you need to put it in a container because it's going to do all this for about 3 days to a week. It will pop and make noises and fizzle and all kinds of things. So just like a baby, we want to cover it, keep it warm. Now if you're in a colder climate, you can always put a heating pad under the tub that it's sitting in. So anywhere from 3 days to a week to 10 days, depending upon how soft or how strong you want it to be, you will end up, it will go from purple and green to a fluorescent pink. And then you'll know it's done. You can taste it and see. I'm Rose Simons, and this is Susan Hickey, and this was Cultured Vegetables.